Hey everybody, welcome back to Sounds Like a Drum, Kane's independent media production. Today, it's time to strap on our tinfoil helmets because we are diving into conspiracy theory thinking in this industry, gear, drum sounds, drum tuning, all of it. Conspiratorial thinking is something that runs rampant in our society these days. It really always has if you go into the past. And it manifests for us as drummers, particularly on the internet, now that we have so much access to so much information and so many gurus and people who think they know the right thing to do. We're all susceptible to this. And it's really starting to stymie things, and we want to dive into how we can change the way we think about the sounds, the gear, the look, the feel, all of it. Now, what we're talking about here, define it a little bit, is the idea that we are looking at a conclusion and then searching for evidence to support that conclusion rather than thinking in terms of a more scientific or the scientific method of utilizing evidence to come to a conclusion. What this does mean for us is that we can still have ideas at the outset, and if the evidence we find disproves our idea, we can set that idea down and go in a new direction. But what we're trying to avoid, and this is something that we live and die by here, is just focusing on a result that already exists and ignoring evidence that goes against that result. Now, this is separate from hearing a drum sound we like and trying to figure out how to make that drum sound. This is more about adhering to an ideal or a concept slavishly and dogmatically and ignoring the possibility that there are other options for us. Now, we've mentioned in the past many times, and a lot recently, the effects that social media and the online environment have on us. And the fact is, if you think that this stuff doesn't affect you, it's impossible for it not to have affected you on some level. So this is a message for everybody. It's going to manifest differently for each one of us, but we must start considering these issues to get us past the idea of getting stuck in a lane and not being able to get out of it. Now, the classic conspiracy theory that we chose today to use as a sort of template for this is the idea that the Earth is flat. Now, 99% of people in the world know, because of a million reasons, that the Earth is not flat. It's a sphere. If you think that the Earth is flat, I invite you to search out evidence and use the scientific method to see if your conclusion is right. But the bottom line here is, if we start with the idea that the Earth is flat and we look for evidence that the Earth is flat only, and we ignore all the evidence that it's not, then we're only furthering an idea that's not actually supported by the evidence. An easy parallel in the music and the drum community is that most people, maybe all of them, but certainly most, are pro-innovation. They want to see innovation. They want to see new things. They're excited by the possibilities until you show them something that's truly innovative, and then suddenly the skepticism sets in, the picking apart of it sets in, the ideas of things that could go wrong or are wrong with it completely overtake the possibility that it could be something new and innovative and useful and possibly give you something exciting and take you into a new direction with your music. There are myriad examples of situations like this where you see a new product or a new idea and you get overwhelmed by the newness of it. One of the ones that we've had our hands on here a lot are the cable-tuned drums from WTS. This is actually not a new concept. There have been rope tension drums for hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years, depending on where you look. But underlying idea is it doesn't look like drums look, so the first thing we want to do is freak out about the fact that it's different. Classic conspiracy, classic xenophobic energy around something that actually offers a really interesting perspective on a traditional drum. Whether you're concerned in this example that like the cable's going to break or that you can't tune the heads individually or whatever it is, those are all components that you can think about, but what does it sound like? What does it do? Is it inspiring? Does it allow you to do something special that you couldn't do before? Similarly with the Zeekit system, you have to drill an extra hole in your drum to install it, but there's already like 80 holes in that drum already to hold all the hardware on. It's not going to change things that dramatically. The wildest one that I remember hearing is that if you drill rivet holes in your cymbal, the cymbal is going to crack or it's going to sound different because it has rivet holes in it. Honestly, all of my ride cymbals have rivet holes in them. They don't all have rivets in them, but I took them all to Jesse Simpson one day, who made this fancy cymbal for us right here. This is the only one of anything that he ever made for us that doesn't have rivet holes in it, because the fact is they don't change the sound. I haven't broken any of them, but if I was paranoid about that happening, then I wouldn't have any rivet cymbals, and that would be really sad. Probably the most overarching one of these that we run into here in terms of communicating to the community and passing critique and ideas and concepts back and forth is the idea that there's a right drum head for a sound or for a gig or for a genre or for a certain drum, or that there's a right tuning for a drum or a drum head or a right kind of thing for whatever, that there's a truth. And we would like to go ahead and plant a flag on this and say that there is no absolute truth about heads or tuning as it relates to making music. They all have merits. They all have weaknesses. There's a time and place for everything. I have a couple of hydraulic heads. I also have razor thin heads for other things. It's not about right and wrong. It's about being open and just letting go of conclusions and instead coming to the table with an open mind and forgetting everything that we think that we know, because the fact of the matter is we don't know as much as we think. And if we want to get to the other side of that gap and have the knowledge and the versatility, the open-mindedness approach is the only way to get there. Now, what's the fundamental concern with this issue, with this perception of not being in control of the direction you're going in and becoming dogmatic in your thinking? Well, it can go in one of two directions, or possibly both, but we're going to split this into two. The first one is knowing what you like, deciding that you're going to get in that lane and not check out other things. This can be genres of music. If something's classified in a certain category, you just are not open to it. It can be about the drums that you're using. It can be about the sticks that you're using. But the fundamental being that I want to do this and I'm not open to experimentation outside of it. All that we get from this is loss, essentially, because if we want to be versatile, if we want to be inspired, if we want to find new things and explore and seek and discover, then there needs to be room for things to come in that we're not 100% comfortable with, like a hydraulic on a snare drum, or like rivets in a cymbal if that's not your thing, or taking the front head off of your bass drum to see why they did that for so long. These are exactly the sorts of things where some people will say, never take that off. And then other people will say, never have resos on your toms. Why would you do that? And then someone else will say, you got to have moon gel on your snare or it sounds bad. If that's the hill you want to die on, that's up to you. But there's a lot more to these instruments and to the music that we make with them than something as simple and straightforward and boxed in as that. Now, on the other hand, what happens when the new head, sticks, drum, whatever comes out and we feel like we have to get it, or else there's something wrong with us? We need to have the newest thing, the flashiest thing, the thing with the new logo on it, whatever it is. Oh, these come in black now. I got to buy them again. It's nonsense. You don't have to do that. This is more of an industry perpetuated side of things, because if anyone can sell us something again that we already bought, it's in their best interest to try to do it to us because they're out to make money. But On the other hand, if we can be savvy about it, things will come along that are genuinely innovative. Something as simple as a more sophisticated bass drum beater. It's $18. I'll experiment with that. That's fine. If it's a new drum and it's really, really expensive, we need to pump the brakes and think about that. If it's going to take up space in our house, if it's going to take up space in our minds and in our lives, making sure that we can be critically thinking about both of these extremes will bring us to the middle where we can bring new stuff in when we need it, and we can stay away from things that are going to take up too much space and clutter up our entire lives. Now, whether this is your first time with us or you've been with us since the beginning, we are here to educate. We're here to share information. We're here to try to lift everybody up and give more opportunities and options and inspiration to the viewers of this channel. If you've been inspired by these things that we do here, chances are you showed up with an open mind, because what we're trying to do is dismantle this idea that there's a right way to do things and also help people get where they're trying to go by getting all the clutter out of the way. We really come from a place here of wanting to teach you how to fish rather than just giving you a fish and letting you off. The experimentation, the self-knowledge you get from all of this experimentation that we've been doing for years on our own as well is the real value here. The what and the how are super useful, but the why of all of this stuff is really where it's at. And that is what leads us away from these starting with conclusion and trying to support it, going to the other side and building up our knowledge base so that when we want to get to a certain conclusion, we have a pathway to get there because of all of the practicing that we've done. This means that even though your results will vary at least a little bit, no matter how closely you follow this or any other educational channel that you might watch, that's where the fun is, because your sound will still be your sound on your drums with your heads in your room. It's not about matching exactly what we did so that you have a preset that we handed you. It's actually learning how to find your own presets and then being able to call them up when you want to, deviate from them, and become a fuller musician without spending a ton of money or just walling yourself off from all these possibilities. If you enjoyed the conversation today and got something out of this, please consider following the link below and checking out our Patreon. It is the best way to allow us to continue to make these videos, do these experiments, spout off when we have opinions about things, and get into a conversation with all of you about what we're doing with these instruments and how we can improve that. And of course, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell below for notifications, and please do tell us how this experience manifests in your life, whether it's about gear, styles of music, the licks that you're playing, the styles that you like to play, any of it.